used to be a straightforward proposition. You could have a boy or you could have a girl. But now there's a third option. It's called steep civilizational decline. A handful of parents across America are deliberately keeping their children's sex hidden and instead raising so-called babies. The idea is that only the children themselves should be able to decide whether they are boys or girls without any of that pesky biological reality getting in the way. It's all very confusing, like a lot of 2018 is. So, of course, we called in our interpreter of all things progressive, our liberal Sherpa, Kathy Aru, founding publisher of Catalina Magazine. She joins us tonight. So, Kathy, because that's saying you're for this, of course.
Yep.
But doesn't this mean if you're going to raise a baby, how would you be able to change your child's diaper? Because the second you change the diaper, of course, you'd no longer be able to pretend that there was a question about whether this was a boy or a girl. You would know.
Well, it's not about pretending. The parent definitely knows the gender. It's about not necessarily labeling the baby. It's about allowing the baby to decide what gender that baby wants to be when that baby can decide, which is around 4 years old. So from 0 to 4, the baby will not be labeled. The labeling theory will not apply from 0 to 4 years old. The baby will be a they-be, neither a boy nor a girl. Whatever gender that baby chooses to be.
What other profound life decisions do we think people ought to be making at the age of 4? Are there any others?
Well,
whether to get a tattoo, whether to get married, enlisting in the military, voting, drinking vodka, smoking Marlboro Reds. Is there anything else that we think 4-year-olds are ready to decide?
This isn't actually a profound life decision. I mean, biologically, there's nothing really going on from 0 to 4 in that area that affects a person's life. Biologically, the experts say that boys and girls, all genders are alike. The boy's brain, the male brain might be a little larger. The female's language might be a little bit more advanced.
Okay. No sexism on my show. Hold on. Whoa, slow down. No, here you're out there like
they say maybe
boys' brains are larger. And I just want to say that kind of toxic masculinity has no place in this program. Thank you very much.
But that's all they can think of.
The bottom line is... all they can think of, like, difference in brain size, difference in genitalia, difference in bone structure. Just minor things like... Just minor things like that. Not perhaps, like, factually. So those are not minor things. Those are definitive things.
Minor.
So, like, why would you not tell your kids about that? You know, at some point, they're going to drop trow and look down and say, wait, we look different. You're going to be like, no, you don't. You're exactly the same.
And
that's lying, isn't it?
That's when the child, they say, is around 4 years old. So around 0 to 4, we're not going to say to a little female, a girl that you're a little princess, or boy, you're such a tiger. The labels are gone. You're not going to put that outside influence on a child. You're just going to be neutral. Everything's going to be neutral.
The outside influence of biological reality. So would you do this with anything else? Would you? But could we decide that we're not going to acknowledge temperature or weather or traffic? And you could just say, you know what? I don't think it's raining outside. Or you can decide whether it's raining outside. I mean, the weatherman says it is, that there's snow on the ground. Or the weather, you know what I mean? The weatherman says that it's 15 degrees out. But I'm going to... You know what I mean? Just kind of make up my own reality.
The parents who are really leading this movement.
We acknowledge biology and nature as real, right?
But the biology, the parents who came out with this, who came out in the New York Times and started this they-be awareness, this gender-neutral awareness for babies, basically said, why should people be so obsessed if your baby is going to be a boy or a girl? Who cares about that area? It's actually a little human. We are bringing a little human into the world. Who cares about the genitalia? Who cares?
May I just suggest why? And this isn't just my opinion, but the opinion of every person who's ever lived going back, let's just say 10,000 years for the sake of neatness. Because men and women are completely different in key ways.
Babies?
Can we not say that anymore?
Babies are different. Babies aren't different. They're little human beings, and there's really not much of a difference between different genders. No. There is no difference. And men
argue that racism is not a driving factor in income inequality.
Because it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with culture. And when you have a culture that doesn't... You know what? Explain to me. You explain to me why black kids aren't graduating high school. Explain that one to me. Explain to me why black kids are shooting each other in rates significantly higher than whites are shooting each other. Explain to me why 13% of the population is responsible for 50% of the murder. Explain to me why the number of black kids in prison, not for innocent reasons, not for walking down the street and getting pulled into a prison, is so high. Explain, if it has nothing to do with culture, explain to me why the single motherhood rate in the black community jumped from 20% to 70% in the same course of time that the civil rights movement has made such tremendous strides. Is America more racist now than it was in 1960? And if it is, please explain to me how that happened.
Anybody can jump in. It's an open mic there.
He is a pig, and I'm so ashamed that he's the Prime Minister of my country. It's disgusting, and I wish him the worst. I wish him a horrible death. I don't know if you're allowed to put that online, but he's fucking everything up for people my age, our future. I plan to work in the NHS, I plan to be a doctor, I plan to actually care about people. And he doesn't care. And to see working class people caring about Boris Johnson, they're shooting themselves in the face. It's disgusting. And yeah, I wish him the worst. Go fuck yourself, Boris Johnson. Honestly, what a cunt. Sorry.
A trend. Their latest trend that they like is what they're calling theybies. And of course, not rabies, theybies. What are these? Okay, this is that you are raising your children without gender, which is idiocy because you're supposed to teach your kids about things that make them healthy, not things that make them unhealthy. Okay, the fact is that if you're confusing your 2-year-old about gender, then you are being an idiot. Like, this is my great question about this stuff. How do you think you're helping your kid? Like, really, do you think it helps your kid not to give them any guidance at all? Would you let your kid not go to school because your kid doesn't know anything about reading? And maybe your kid is better off not reading. Maybe reading is a societal construct. And we know there are lots of bad things that come from reading, like being on Twitter. We know there are terrible things that come from education, like a certain sense of non-equality with others. You're an elitist. But now we've got parents who have decided to raise their kids without a gender designation, which, again, how does this help the kid? Nobody the hell knows. So this is from Cambridge, Massachusetts, because of course it is. Of course, the home of Harvard is the center of stupidity in the universe. They say 3-year-old twins, Zyler and Caden Sharp, scurried around the boys and girls clothing racks of a narrow consignment store filled with toys. Zyler, wearing rainbow leggings, scrutinized a pair of hot pink and purple sneakers. Caden, in a T-Rex shirt, fixated on a musical cube that flashed colorful lights. At a glance, the only discernible difference between these fraternal twins is their hair. Zyler's is brown and Caden's is blonde. Is Zyler a boy or a girl? How about Caden? That's a question their parents, Nate and Julia Sharp, say only the twins can decide. Or biology, right? Or we could alternatively look at their genitals. The Cambridge, Massachusetts couple represents a small group of parents raising babies, children being brought up without gender designation from birth. A Facebook community for these parents currently claims about 220 members across the United States. How you think this is good for your kid is beyond me. I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, so I know a fair bit about raising kids of precisely this age. And listen, I've said on this program, when my daughter was 2 years old, you know what she really liked? Trucks and buses. Did I care? Not at all, because I don't think that it is a natural indicator of masculinity or femininity for a 2-year-old to like trucks or buses. And you know what? Now she's 4, and she only wants to wear princess dresses. It's the only thing she wants to do. You know why? Because that's what girls typically want to do. That said, my 2-year-old son, right, he also likes trucks and buses. If he started wanting to wear princess dresses, you know what I would say to him? I would say, no, that's a girl thing. That's what your sister does. You know what you do? You do fun boy things, like you play baseball. That's not a bad thing. I'm not saying my daughter can't play baseball. I am saying that my son cannot wear dresses because I want my son to be secure in his own masculinity. And it turns out that being a man means accepting some of the societal constraints around manhood. Okay, now that doesn't mean when he's 18 or 20, he can't make his own decisions. That's when you're 18 or 20. But when he's 2, I get to make those decisions. And I want to inculcate in my son a feeling that he is a boy, a strong boy, who's going to grow up to have manly responsibilities for taking care of women and children, manly responsibilities for defending a civilization that makes important distinctions between men and women. I think there is a good reason that the Bible says that boys should not dress as girls and girls should not dress as boys, because every society in human history has made distinctions between how males dress and females dress. And don't give me the Scottish wear kilts. That's correct. Men wear kilts and women wear dresses. Okay, every society in history has had distinctions, and those distinctions are deeply important because they inculcate different responsibilities that are indeed rooted in biology. The idea that all of gender is a construct is simply not backed by science, nor is it healthy for society or even for individuals. If there are people who are confused, then we have to figure out how to deal with that. But to inculcate the confusion as a...
Today at the Slut Walk.
Beautiful ladies.
Of course, beautiful ladies.
Amber Rose. Amber.
Amber. So all of you just came out here to see all the chicks scantily clad?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a great cause. I'm all for it. I'm all for the sluts.
Recently, as you may have heard, I was given what appears to be a permanent ban from the United Kingdom. The UK Home Office told me that this was because I had been caught distributing racist leaflets in Luton Town Centre. Now, well, I was definitely in Luton the day they claimed I was doing no such thing as distributing racist leaflets. In fact, I was there because I was filming a social experiment of sorts. And this all began a couple weeks ago when I reread, I guess, a Vice article that came out a bit ago, which asked the question, or rather I think claimed, that Jesus Christ lived his life as a gay man, and we never knew it. That's Vice's theory anyway, make of it what you will. And I was intrigued by the article, not necessarily because I thought there was any validity to it. I think the notion was a little ridiculous, but as I carried on my day after reading it, I couldn't help but think that I don't recall there being much backlash when the article came out. Maybe there were a few posts here and there, but there were no protests, no religious leaders routinely condemning Vice. There was certainly no Charlie Hebdo-style attack on their head office. Nothing really happened as a result of this. And, I mean, they edited Jesus Christ in front of a pride flag. It made me think back to a group of protesters in London who outraged the Islamic community by having pro-LGBT and pro-Islam signs. They were receiving death threats. There was also a gay Muslim couple who had this happen after they were married last year. And I was interested in, I guess, the different reactions between the two faiths and communities. So I decided with a few friends of mine to see for ourselves what would happen if we played the role of an LGBT social justice warrior activist and set up a stall to celebrate LGBT diversity within the Islamic community. So we went and we printed out some flyers with the usual inclusive slogans that you see: Allah is gay, Allah is trans, Allah is intersex, Allah is all of us. And we went out to Tommy Robinson's hometown, a very multicultural area with lots of different faiths and opinions and cultures, essentially to see what would happen if a good-natured LGBT campaigner tried to nurture some goodwill between two very different communities.
So we're just here to challenge these far-right misconceptions that Islam is homophobic. I hope you enjoy it.
That's very offensive.
Why would it be
very offensive? No.
Why could it be?
Yeah, it is offensive.
Guys, you know, can't take it.
Why can't I have this?
Because it's offensive. I've had 3 or 4
How is
people
it
come up.
offensive?
Because people.
Yeah, I find it offensive. I find it very offensive.
I'm offended that people think that Allah is not for gay people as well, that Allah is not for trans people as well.
That's not what
Allah is a gay God. He is a
that's
God
not
for
what you're
gays.
saying on there.
Allah is a gay
That's not
God.
what you're saying on there, is it? That is deceiving.
To it. I'm taking offense to what people are saying to me here.
It constitutes a public order offence, okay, and I cannot allow you to display these out here. Okay, people are coming up to us and telling us that it's offensive, and we're potentially going to have a situation on our hands, okay, where people are going to start becoming injured, okay.
People are going to get injured.
Because people are taking offence to what you're saying. And what you're displaying, people are telling me is offensive and they're taking offence to it, okay. Therefore, for your safety and for the safety of everybody else, okay, to prevent any public order offences from occurring or taking place, I need you to remove these from your desk, hand them over to me, and you cannot display them or dish them out. Committing a public order offence, okay, and I'm concerned that if you continue to display these, okay, not only your safety but the safety of other members of the public will be at risk, and I cannot allow you to display these. I'm asking you to take them down. If you don't, okay, then you'll be arrested for a public order offence.
I'll be arrested.
Yes, you will.
If
yes. You need to surrender them to me, and you cannot hand them out, and you cannot distribute them to anybody.
I have to surrender these. perfectly fine for you to say Jesus is gay.
How you can say that God is gay?
Sir, please don't swear.
The God is create everything. He's not gay. He's not have woman or nothing.
We're sorting it. The reason why we were even called is because people.
You don't have to bring religion into it.
You read the Quran. Tell me about it. Come on. Are you Muslim?
The monument, the war memorial. There's cars there.
But that's still out of order. Who
That's all right. I think would have happened if the police didn't came and we just carried on.
I think it would have ended badly for a lot of people, unfortunately. I don't mean that to scare you, okay, but obviously people, like I say, interpret things differently. People took extreme offence to that, okay. People get hostile, people get aggressive, okay.
So I went on my way, pleased with a successful little social experiment that I had here. But little did I know the social experiment was not actually over. And fast forward 2 weeks, and I am being detained in Calais under the Terrorism Act and told I am being banned from the country for handing out racist material in Luton that day. Not only is this idea that the statement God is gay or Allah is gay a racist statement bizarre, but just completely and utterly wrong, it also highlights a monumental double standard in Western societies. Why is it racist to say Allah is gay, but not racist to say Jesus is gay? Why does the rights of Muslims to be homophobic trump the rights of gay people to have their self-expression, Muslim or otherwise? Why does causing offense, not inciting hatred or violence, but causing offense to a certain group, result in a lifetime ban from a country which proudly touts tolerance as one of its key values? These are questions that I wish I could go to the United Kingdom and ask, but I can't do that now. So I really think that in the UK, unless they are fine with being under archaic blasphemy laws enforced by Islam and Sharia in 2018, they really need to start having a conversation about this before they are no longer able to have that conversation at all. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this. Thank you so much for supporting me through all of this craziness. I hope that a lot of people will be at Speaker's Corner standing up for free speech these next couple of weeks. I'll be watching from a distance as you fight to retain your freedom in your nations. Cheers. I'll see you next time.
Incite the same kind of violence.
I mean, you heard my speech tonight. Do you feel that my speech could incite violence?
Well,
I mean that seriously. That's an honest question.
I know you're asking honestly. I feel that for me, as an individual, it isn't, but I could see how a lot of your points I really disagreed with. I literally have a list of
and that's fine. I mean, that's the good part, right? Where we disagree and we can have a conversation.
I just was wondering in terms of, and what I mean by inciting violence is encouraging the same people who believe in like your transphobic beliefs, even that like homophobia is a sin based on your religious beliefs. Do you believe that because of what you say, you can encourage a lot of people to act on those beliefs?
So I have a very strong standard with regard to incitement, and I'm very consistent about this. If I'm not telling somebody to commit violence, I am not inciting them to violence. I've held the standard for Barack Obama when he was saying anti-police things, and then somebody went and shot up some police officers in Dallas. I said that's not Barack Obama's fault. When a Bernie Sanders supporter went and shot up a congressional baseball game, I said that's not Bernie Sanders' fault because Bernie Sanders wasn't calling for that. Political debate requires that you talk to people and people take your words as what they mean, not as an excuse to go and do violence. I've never called for violence, nor would I. As far as the idea that my words are some sort of attack, a violent attack, for example, on folks who are transgender, my view,
not saying
I know, but I'm responding to the people who are not you who might say that. Okay? So the idea that I am transphobic, for example, this is a bizarre kind of attack in the sense that I don't know that I've ever exhibited phobia of trans people. I'm not afraid of trans people.
Well, transphobia is more along the lines of prejudice against the trans
community. So I actually think that your first characterization was right. I think that transphobia is really disagreement with the basic principle that the trans community is trying to purvey, which is that people's sex is malleable, that people can move from male to female, and that it is my job, objectively, to now call them the name they wish to be called, and to teach my children that men can be women and women can be men. I fundamentally disagree with that point. Now, with that said, is everybody in the United States entitled to the same rights? Of course, but your right does not extend to forcing me to call you what you want me to call you. That's not the way this works. That violates my freedom of speech. So, in interpersonal relationships, if I were out to dinner with a trans person, would I make a point of noting their proper biological sex?
No, because that would be impolite. When I'm talking about the general principle of is a man a woman or is a woman a man, the answer is I will say that a man is a man and a woman is a woman and a he is a he and a she is a she. And if I'm in a public debate with somebody, I will say the same thing.